Alright, so hello one and all, and welcome back to another Mushoku Tensei episode review where I'll be going over the anime, manga, and light novel to talk about everything that the anime changed or cut out, and just to get you caught up on everything. So this one will be kind of a quicker one today, but there's still some notable changes that have happened. And so let's get into it with episode 14, No Such Thing as a Free Lunch. The episode starts out with Rudeus talking about how amazing his new free apartment is and how great the food is, compared to the demon continent standards anyway. And although it does have a bit of an insect problem, the beach-looking walls are very sturdy. However, criminals do wind up finding their way into this apartment, considering it is a prison after all. And so the opening credits gives us a nice view of the Dolia village, which resides in the Great Forest. And we kind of see how the beast folk live, and we see many unique birds, rodents, and other animals like sloths. And so, stripped naked and thrown into a wooden cell, Rudeus knows that he could easily escape, but not only is he in the middle of a forest, but these people have the power to just paralyze you with a single shout, so it wouldn't really be the smartest thing to do. And so soon after, a woman walks up to Rudeus and splashes a bucket of water on him and insults him. But he tries to plead and say, hey, no, look, lady, I'm innocent. Please, you have to believe me. But he's really worried that he might develop a new fetish because of this. He really can turn anything into a positive situation, can't he? And as they pass, we get to see a lot of shots of unique insects and flowers that grow within the forest. And now nearly a week passes, and on day 5, Rudeus gets a new roommate. Lying down, I forget the style, but resting on his arm. And he says, welcome to your last stop on the road of life. And so as the new guy starts to talk, Rudeus demands that this new guy gives him respect because Rudeus is technically superior at being a criminal, I guess. And apparently this guy got caught cheating while gambling and was thrown in here. He introduces himself as Geese, and he says that he recognizes Rudeus's name from somewhere, but he doesn't really know from where. And that night we hear Rudeus going oh yeah, oh that feels good, oh keep going. Oh, I bet you could beat a dragon with those hands. And Geese goes oh no, I'm no good at battle. And then he's oh, maybe you could satisfy 100 women. Geese goes no, 1, maybe 2 tops is enough for me. And it turns out Geese is giving Rudeus a massage. There's nothing else that's happening. But then Rudeus is okay, well, maybe you could break out of here and help me get to Xanport then. Geese doesn't want any part of that, however. And as the two argue, Rudeus is ready to take the guard by hostage, and then he notices that the lady is missing. And it's kind of hot. And a little smoky. They then look down and notice a massive fire burning within the village. Like what I did? It's not it's like fire. You know what, I'll take it a step further. And now it really looks like there's an actual fire, which, trust me, there isn't. But Rudeus grabs a stone on the ground and kind of manipulates it to turn it into a key. And something that I've always wondered is, what is the limit of magic in this world? Some say, like Roxy, that magic has its limits, while others, and I'm not going to say who, say that it's limitless. And what I've always wondered is, can Rudeus just take a wall and just, move it? If he has the Force like Darth Vader and just, moves it over there? Or is his power of manipulation only limited to things that he has created? I don't know. Because, there'd be a limit to what he could manipulate around the world, wood, probably. I mean, he could control plants, but I don't know. I guess trees, would he be able to control trees even still, would he? He'd be able to control rock, trees, literally anything. And, during combat, if he's battling someone with a sword, he could kind of just, move it out of the way and just, float it into the air. Now they don't have a weapon. Because it's made of steel and he can control rock and metal, he can create metals and stuff as well. So, it's interesting. But up until this point, we've never really seen Rudeus manipulate things that he hasn't created. I mean, technically, there's back when he was kidnapped with Eris, he Shigaraki touched the wall and then it disintegrated. But now we see him pick up a stone and manipulate it into a key. And during Rudeus' escape in the manga, he kind of just blasts through the door because he's in an actual prison cell. He's not in a cage like in the anime, but he kind of just blasts the door open. And in the light novel, he does use a key, but we don't see him make it. So the fact that he's manipulating things around him could be an anime only thing, because again, in the light novel and manga, when Rudeus escapes from the goons back when Eris and he were kidnapped, he never manipulated the surrounding walls. He just I forget what he did actually to get out, but he didn't do that to escape. So I guess if we were to compare like which Rudeus is strongest, I guess in the end it probably would be the anime Rudeus, because he could just like control anything around him. But then again, this might not just be like an anime mistake, because in light novel there are magic circles that like allow for boats to travel, and so that means like propelling water and manipulating the water itself. So there's a chance that you can manipulate things that already exist, but it could just be more advanced. I really don't know. I just wanted to point that out because Rudeus in light novel and manga do not have the ability, as far as I know, they don't have the ability to manipulate already created objects, only things that he himself has made. But I guess the anime, it's just, they throw that rule out of the window, because that is very overpowered. But anyway, the two make an escape from their cell and make a run for it. And as they do, on the ground, the beast folk are being attacked by a bunch of humans, killing women as the warriors fight. Guy says that these must be the ones that have been kidnapping the beast children lately. And as much as Rudeus hates the people in its village for what they did to him, watching them just get slaughtered like this makes him sick. Rudeus, who has gathered his wand and clothing, causes a rainstorm, which he can now do without an incantation, and puts out the fires. There we go, now we have a nice, like, kind of misty vibe going on. But anyway, Guy shows up and starts slaughtering some of the kidnappers, and he says that because of the smoke is gone, he can smell again, and asks Rudeus to help him save the kidnapped children. And just then, as they save them, Gallus Cleaner shows up, holding onto one of the kids as hostage, and Gallus says that they used Dead End as a distraction to get a jump on the Doldia village, and they used Rudeus as a decoy. Guy then charges at Gallus and throws the child at him, while Beastfolk warriors try and get a jump on Gallus. However, he's able to easily kill all of them and even wound Guys, and Geese, noticing the sword style, gets Gallus to reveal his full identity. He is North Saint Gallus the Cleaner. And so for comparison, that is a rank lower than Ghislaine, but is a rank above Eris. And so Gallus mocks Rudeus and asks if he's so scared that he'll let him go. And Rudeus even says that he's not like Ruijerd. He won't sacrifice his life for some random kids that he doesn't even know. And as Rudeus allows Gallus to kind of just pass on by, the sacred beast charges from within the forest and gets a jump on Gallus, making him lose his hostage. Getting a new will to fight, Rudeus and Geese take a stand alongside the silver dog, and the sacred beast charges forward as Rudeus uses his foresight to see what Gallus does, and after dodging his attacks and the dog biting him and Geese using some cheap tactics, Rudeus is finally able to get a clean hit and performs a Dragon Ball style attack on Gallus, and he finishes him off. And now, whether it's from anxiety, general exhaustion, or using too much mana, Rudeus passes out. He then sits up to find the dog and cat beast children, Guys and his father, the guard, Ruijerd, and of course, Eris standing in front of him. Eris is radiating happiness and says how awesome it is for Rudeus to take down a North Saint, and says that Geese was super excited about it too. Guys and the guard had fallen onto their backs, holding their hands to their chest with their legs spread out, kind of I'm not gonna go on the floor and do that. I'm not. I'll sometimes recreate the actions, but I'm not doing that. But they say that they're sorry and they'll allow for any punishment Rudeus can think of. And Guys, his father, the chief of the Doldia village, also expresses his gratitude for what Rudeus had done. Rudeus then asks Eris what took them so long and if everything was alright. And with a huge grin, she goes, "Oh no, it was absolutely awful." But basically, when the chief caught up with Ruijerd, there was almost a fight due to the misunderstanding. Once things were cleared up, they killed the rest of the people in the smuggling ring and nearly got framed for the smuggling themselves. Eris had stayed out of the whole thing but was responsible for taking care of the kids, which I'm sure she just loved. And after Eris finishes her story, Rudeus says how awesome it is to have actually helped and visited the Beastfolk village, and they would absolutely have to brag about it once they get back home. Eris, still with her huge smile, says that she can't wait to see her grandfather when they come back. And then we cut to the Asuran Kingdom. Alright, we need better mood lighting for this. What a nice yellow. Holy. Alright, sure, this is royalty, I guess. Nice golden background with a little nice, like, blue hue to it. Sure. But anyway, we cut to the Asuran Kingdom as Soros is kneeling down in front of 4 men and the king. They say that it was his fault that things were so unorganized and is at fault for many of the lives lost, and thus he has been revoked from his position as Lord and is going to be executed. His position will be replaced by someone named Darius, who is suspected to be the true culprit behind Eris's kidnapping. And as they have this conversation, we actually cut to Luke, Fitz, and Ariel, who are watching down from above. And the last thought in Soros' head as he gets executed is, "Eris, my dearest granddaughter, if you still live, I wish you happiness." And then, he's dead. So that sucks. Soros was great. Man, what a shame. Anyway, moving on to the manga. So I'll be completely honest, the anime was kind of like a one-to-one adaptation of the manga, only with some slight added detail and minor changes. To start off, when Rudeus meets Geese, in the anime, Geese says that he recognizes Rudeus' name, but in the manga, Rudeus also says that he recognizes Geese's name. And so this is likely due to the story that Ghislaine has told of Fangs the Black Wolf probably multiple times over in the past. And Geese says that the reason why he was in the area is because he wanted to visit a lifelong beastfolk friend, which is likely to be Ghislaine since they were both in Fangs. However, to call her a lifelong friend might be a little bit of an overstatement, but I don't know. But what's interesting as well is that it's stated that the sacred beast is green, and while in the light novel it's described as silver, and in the anime it's shown to be white. So for some reason, color just does not translate between adaptations, and I just find that it's a little funny. But we do get a little bit more information on what the sacred beast is. Basically, a sacred beast is born once every several hundred years and is only ever born in times of great crisis. Once it grows up, it'll go off and fight alongside a warrior to save the world from said impending doom. Basically, if a sacred beast is born, you should be a little concerned. But as it grows up, it's raised very carefully in a sacred tree in a barrier deep within the beast race's territory. So it's kind of got a bit of a sheltered life. But after the fire starts, Rudeus blasts open the door, stops the rain, and saves Guys from Gallus, and basically 1v1s Gallus. And it's stated that the beast race and the human race have not been on good terms lately, and it's likely due to the kidnapping and smuggling. Gallus explains that beast folk sell at a really good price because noble perverts that are willing to buy them. And he's clearly talking about Soros and the Boreas family. But he then calls them fools for paying so much for them, and Rudeus gets angry, saying that they may be fools and borderline sexually harassing their slaves, but the maids and servants say that they are all glad that they were bought by them and that they feel loved. Otherwise, they'd be in some horrible sex dungeon or something, and that just is not good. He feels quite similar to the servants of the Boreas family, since much like the beast folk sold as slaves, he was in a low point in his world, and soon came the Boreas family, and they helped him and picked him back up. And so the fight comes to a climax as Rudeus creates a barrier around him, which I don't think he should be able to do yet, not for another few years, but he did it. And as the fight is coming to a climax, Rudeus almost gets beaten, but then Gallus gets hit with a surprise attack by Geese, saving the day. And we get a short cut to Gallus' backstory, where we see that he appeared to have been a slave himself one time, and due to his masters, that's how he lost his eye, which he doesn't have an eye in the manga, by the way. And then he monologues to himself that if he were able to live a straight life like Rudeus, then maybe he'd have a chance to have a happy ending. Rudeus then wakes up with his head in Eris's lap, using it as a pillow, and it's just the two of them while Ruger discusses things with the beast folk somewhere else in the village. Eris explains that Gallus was handed off to the officials at Zantport, and when she met Guys, she just straight up punched him, but that aside, she was more worried about Rudeus than anything else and started to cry and says that she doesn't know what she would do if anything were to happen to him. Rudeus then grabs her hand and apologizes for not telling her the truth about the situation. He didn't want to worry her, but he ended up making her worry even more because of this. He says that she's important to him and that he won't keep secrets from those that he cares about. Blushing, Eris turns her head away as she starts to tremble. He wipes her tears away and asks if Rudeus can cast his healing magic on himself, and he goes, yeah, no, I'm far too weak to move right now, so can I stay like this for a little bit? And with her heart pounding, she goes sure, I guess. But moving on from that, she says that she loves it here and wants to hug all of the children with all of her strength, but Rudeus says maybe you shouldn't do that, you're probably gonna kill them. But then they talk about bragging about them coming to the Beast Village when they get back home, and that's when we see Soros. In Asura's throne room, they ask how Soros will take responsibility for this, and apparently he had put his entire fortune into the recovery efforts, but Darius Silva Ganius, Asura's high minister, says that that isn't responsibility. Soros then says that he will pay for it with his life, and then he gets executed. The reason why he asked for an execution is so that the other Boreas family members will no longer get persecuted by the other nobles. Darius says that the next Boreas head will be given to the next available family member, which would be Philip if he's alive, but if not, it would then go to Eris. And he says that he'll help her in any way that he can. And we don't want Darius near Eris again. We don't want that. But anyway, let's move on to the light novel. So we open up the chapter with a POV of Rudeus as he thinks about the situation and wonders if Rudeus is alright. But he doesn't pay too much mind to him since Rudeus is a warrior. And Rudeus generally worries more about Eris than himself, and since Eris isn't there, he can go all out against any threat that may come his way. And as he thinks this, one of the beast children apologizes for being rude to Rudeus, and he says that it's alright as he speaks it in the beast god tongue, which I guess he can use, but he hasn't used it since the Laplace War. And so the children explain that the sacred beast is a symbol of their tribe and they couldn't leave it behind. Rudeus apologizes again and the children give him a smile. He really does like how children just aren't afraid of him. Most aren't. Just then, Gustave de Doldia, the chief of the Doldia village, shows up as Tona, his granddaughter, which would make her Gaius's daughter, and Tersena runs up and hugs him. And they say that Rudeus saved them. And so once again, not really worrying about Rudeus, the two of them focus on getting the children to safety first and bring them to Zantport. And so for the most part, things go pretty similar how they do in the manga and anime, although there are a couple things to note. The Doldia village is stated to be about 3 hours of fast-paced running from the secret kidnapper's hideout, which that on its own was another hour or so from the Zantport. And so this village is like pretty far out. But the guard that brought Rudeus's food seemed to have actually made it herself, because when Rudeus complimented it, she silently brought him seconds, despite only being allowed to give prisoners 2 meals a day. So I guess she just couldn't help it. And then when Geese arrives, he notes that he looks like a monkey, and that's because he's a demon. And that, despite Rudeus playing around and being a jerk with him, he's oddly tolerant of Rudeus's attitude towards him because Rudeus is really a jerk to Geese. And even after Rudeus demands for Geese to give him his vest, he simply complies. And eventually on day 6 or 7, Rudeus asks Geese if there's any other cells in the village, but he says that this is the only one. The only reason why there aren't more criminals here is because they're usually taken to the Zantport's officials. And so this catches Rudeus off guard. Why is Geese here rather than at Zantport? Because only serious crimes against the Doldia are put in here, but if Geese was only here for gambling, it doesn't really make sense why he's in the Doldia prison. For gambling, he should really be in Zantport. But at this, Geese kind of just shrugs his shoulders and says perhaps because it took place in the village and because it was so minor, they kind of just threw him here. And something felt a little off to Rudeus. And that's when he realized that the vest he took from Geese was littered with fleas. Disgusting. And so soon after Geese starts scratching Rudeus's back from all the flea bites, they notice that the village is on fire. Once Rudeus and Geese exit their cell, they notice a small child calling out for help and rubbing her eyes. After cleaning her eyes with water, they took her with them to somewhere else safe. And after reaching the center of the village, Rudeus casts a more condensed version of cumulonimbus and puts out the fires in the village. After that, Guy shows up and called Gunther and Gilbad, a couple warriors, and gave chase to the kidnappers alongside Rudeus. After mowing the guys down, they eventually come across a woman who's about to be killed by 3 men, and Rudeus knocked one of them out with a stone cannon. Gimbal, another warrior, killed the second, and the woman herself killed the third. And it turns out that the woman's name is Laklana, and she is the one who guarded the cell. Now, it's at this point that I noticed something interesting about the naming convention for the Doldias. First, it was the R Meagards, and now it's the G Doldias. However, there are a couple exceptions with Laklana, Linnea, Presena, Minitona, and Tersena, which is a lot. But still, there's Gunther, Gilbad, Gimbal, Guys, Gustav, and Ghislaine, all with G's. Is that a coincidence or what? And technically, not with the translation, Linnea's name is Rinia, and then Laklana would therefore be Rocklana, or Rockrana, I guess. And so maybe Persena, Minitona, and Tersena also have R names in Japanese as well? I'm not too sure, but there's a lot of G's, and so it's kind of funny. I always love the little naming conventions for these, for the races and stuff. But anyway, after that, because Rudeus was too slow, one of the warriors put Rudeus on his back and rode him like a backpack, firing off stone cannons. Rudeus is now known as Shoulder Equipment Rudeus, a piece of equipment that, upon encountering an enemy, will deflect any attack through the use of Eye of Foresight, and automatically knocks down enemies. That's a pretty rare item if you ask me. But soon they come across Gallus, who is able to take on 3 Doldian warriors in a matter of seconds. Stabbing them through the chest and using their body as shields, he makes quick work of all 3 of them just instantly. And that includes Gimbal. May Gimbal's soul rest in peace. And Geese notes that he's not only using the North God style, but also what he calls the Atoph style. And so don't worry about who Atoph is, we'll find out eventually. But the fact that the North God style has tactics for fighting with a hostage is a little concerning. And so it's at this point that Rudeus realizes why Paul hated this style so much. It really is a nasty sword style. Geese says that he has a plan though, and so Rudeus does his one-on-one against Gallus with the assistance of the Sacred Beast. There's not much I can really comment on this battle. It went pretty similar to how it did in the anime, except for the fact that what Geese does at the end is something called a North God style original Crying Bomb, which he then just throws a giant pot of ashes at Gallus's face. And it seems like that's not actually what the move was supposed to be, because according to Geese, when a North God practitioner hears the words Crying Bomb, their natural reaction is to cover their face, much like what Gallus does. But I guess Geese might as well just literally thrown a rock at his head because it just hits him and knocks him out. Gotta love Geese. Stay. But anyway, they win and Rudeus throws Gallus' sword away and the Sacred Beast plays fetch with it. And it's like, it's such a cute little dog. Well, it's a cute little big dog, you know? But basically, Rudeus explains the entire situation like this. The smugglers had lowered the number of kidnappings throughout the past year to let the beast folks guard down, and then they started to target the children from surrounding villages, leaving the Doldia tribe weak and defenseless. And with the rainy season coming up, which lasts about 3 months, they lose their sense of smell and can't fight as well to track down their young. After that, the Sacred Beast is easy pickings and thus was taken. From there, Gallus would give the remaining warriors of the Doldia village an anonymous tip for them to find the beast children that he had Rudeus free. That way, the village would be even further stripped of its defenses, and then he can steal away as many children as he wants. Why it took Rudeus so long is because they found even more missing children, 50 of them, on a boat which they killed everyone on. Like, everyone but the children, obviously. But from there, the Zantport officials got angry at Rudeus and the Doldia warriors, and over the next week, they were working out how to compensate the beast folk for their troubles. And so now, once everyone returned to the Doldia village and Guys apologized to Rudeus by laying on his back and doing the pose, Eris then gave him an original Boreas punch to the gut before pouring water on his head. So everyone has a happy ending, I guess, except for Guys. But he kind of deserves it. He's a bit of a jerk. And so, yeah, no, we don't actually get to see Soros' execution quite yet. That's like episode 22, I think, that we get to see that in the light novel. So, yeah, for now, it's a happy ending. Nobody knows he's dead yet. Hooray! Oh, God. But anyway, that's it for this episode 14 of the anime, chapters whatever of the manga, pages whatever of the light novel. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe for more Mushoku Tensei content, and I will see